folks, this is Bob with news with geostrategic views. I think the Republic Day, one of the biggest highlights for me was the participation of the tri-service contingent from Bangladesh in this process, because the timing is so critical that it's their 50th day of 50th independence year, a critical landmark. It's critical that there was a lot of bohemian between Indian armed forces and this contingent, because this contingent had a lot of representatives from the regiments that fought the Pakistan army, the Mukti Bahinis. Indian regiments, they were able to meet a lot of the regiments who were actually participated in the liberation of Bangladesh. So these headlines were really, really impressive. Towards stronger Indo-Bangla ties, the participate is basically important. And the other thing, the soldiers were being interviewed, and you really actually thought and knew that they were quite happy and thankful about that. Republic Day, Bangladesh troops to thank India for 71. Bangladesh contingent was in India. And Bangladesh, however, we now unfortunately are running into two elections where domestic politics is going to cause a lot of problems between India, foreign policy between India and Bangladesh. I am not so sure how the Ghuspetia terminology that has been put on them from by none other than our Home Minister would have actually gone down. And in fact, it must have taken a lot of effort to get this contingent onto the Rajpath. I really would have had many doubts if I was from Bangladesh myself. But I guess what India has done, and remember 1971, there was the government of the Congress led by Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. So that is something that I think probably this government finds extremely difficult to swallow, right? And she's been called all kinds of great names by none other than the RSS itself and by Vajpayee, right? So we really need to nurture. This is probably the most critical, in my opinion, one of the most critical relationships that we have going. And we need to nurture it and treat it with extreme amount of respect and not constantly denigrate it, because at the end of the day, all the indicators, economic indicators and human development indicators are suggesting they're actually way better than us. But what's happening in the other parts of our neighborhood? Pakistanis jailed in Lanka pushing drugs into India through sea. Yeah, I don't, this. I think this Sri Lanka is a challenging situation here, because here to here, India issues strong demarque over death of 3 fishermen in Lanka waters, and I believe there's been this kind of a meeting that's just happened with the really high ups in Sri Lanka, trying to figure out how to keep Indian fishermen out. We actually do need a solution for this, because we really don't know who's right. And fishing is, as I've shown you, critical. It kind of almost had it created almost a breakdown situation in this Brexit conversation between the United Kingdom and the rest of Europe. And it's all about fishing. And what about Nepal? Turmoil in Nepal ruling party as Prachananda group expels PM Oli. India has described Oli's sudden decision to dissolve parliament and call for fresh elections as an internal matter. Though I believe India is now pushing for elections, because that's the only way that democracy, that we can actually get the right picture to see who actually represents the people of Nepal, right? But here, a small note. US ambassador meets Prachananda. So obviously, insidiously and by stealth, the United States and India are getting closer. The first indication was obviously the defense relationship that was signed between Maldives and the United States. In the earlier days, we would have been uproaring and we would have split our spleen trying to prevent that from happening, and including during the UPA time, right? But now things are changing, and this is also another important point, because the United States is actually needed not only in Maldives but also in Nepal and in Sri Lanka to actually bell the Chinese cat. And we also need to really put back and get the United States involved in trying to break Myanmar away from the vice-like grip of China. And it can't be done alone, right? That country is too embedded with China and needs our help, the help of democracies, without looking down on and without actually holding the Rohingya issue on their throat. That is an albatross around their neck, but it has to be put aside on the larger well-being of the Asia Pacific and the Indo-Pacific, folks. This is Bob back again, and let's see how the vaccine diplomacy is doing for India, and what it's doing for China, and what it's doing for Russia. Right? For the first major, I think, geopolitical changes that has happened is the US, this note that has come here. I think it was probably in Financial Times. US joins international effort to ensure global access to vaccine. Health tops Biden agenda. WHO welcomes re-engagement. Okay. So now important part here is for India, right? Because with India being the 60 or 70%, 62 or 63% supplying 62 to 63% of global vaccines. Johnson & Johnson is also going to be manufactured in India, in their plant. AstraZeneca is already being manufactured here. Most likely Pfizer will be manufactured in the Pfizer plant in India. Moderna is tying up with Tata, and that's probably going to being manufactured in one of our facilities in India. United States, if it's stepping up to the plate as far as vaccines is concerned, has no alternative as Britain, as you said, because Johnson is pushing AstraZeneca. AstraZeneca is from Oxford, and the largest producer of AstraZeneca is going to be a Serum International in India, right? And hence supplying to a lot of countries. Right? US has absolutely no alternative to be talking to India, with India on this issue. And I think this is a great opportunity. This, and besides the other priorities that Biden has, to stay in the front and center of Biden's foreign policy. Critical, important, stay on the gas. Note to Taranjeet Singh Sandhu. Okay, what's India doing that the world's looking at? Airlifted 6 million shots to 9 nations. Will supply to WHO's COVAX facility, India tells UNSC. Sri Lanka thanks India for sending vaccines. I think we sent them 500,000 doses. And then you have India sends doses to both Bhutan and Maldives. I think one country got about 500,000, another got about 1 million. Okay, so let me just see that here. India vaccines to reach Maldives, Bhutan today. And do we have some figures anywhere? No, I can't see that. However, close to it, and a small article with it says China's close ally Cambodia seeks Indian vax donation. Amazing. Well, look what Dhaka is getting. It's getting 2 million doses, folks. They actually got them already, right? And now what's Pakistan left to do? Pakistan explores options of how to get the Indian vaccine. And look at what's shameful. This is a country they say is their iron brother, and they've got all these chelas in Pakistan kissing up to China. Look what we got. Amid India's vaccine export, China offers 500,000 doses to Pakistan. Shameful, Imran Khan. Shameful, Mr. Xi. And this is the Indian newspaper. Look at what even Khalij Times is saying. China to give 500,000 doses of vaccine by January 31st, folks. India has already shipped 2 million to Bangladesh, 500,000 to Sri Lanka, 500,000 to Bhutan, 1 million to Nepal, waiting for Afghanistan to give the go-ahead. 1 million has been shipped to Morocco, 2 million have been shipped to Brazil. And what does China say? 500,000 by 31st Jan. Shame on you, Foreign Minister Qureshi. He should be put his head. What does he have to say? Where the vaccine? Oh, but India is now out of favor. That's the standard answer. So this is a vaccine diplomacy. Unlike Chinese candidates, India can supply safe, affordable jabs for the world. Now this is reality. Let me see the people I know. There are a lot of my friends who've gone up to this Sinopharma in Dubai. It's below 50%. It's got huge problems globally. What is to be understood is while they're being forced into whatever gloobdy-gawk the UAE government has sold their people, point of the matter is, if you look at the history Chinese vaccines. It's despicable, despicable. It has no history, folks. It's trash can history, right? So there goes that. So what does China have? Best thing they can do. China starts smear campaign against India's vax diplomacy. Beijing on back foot as Delhi gives shots to partner nations. Oh, we got one up, right? Folks, we got one up here. Also, we are not moving away from the heights. Two up. Way to go, folks. Besides what happened, obviously, this is the good stuff that's happening. China steps up. This was in the Indian newspaper, and what do you have here in I think it's probably Times of the United Kingdom. China steps up bid to discredit Western democracies, sows suspicions. It ain't having any luck, folks. And what do we have here? Queues form for Chinese and Russian shots. And get, these are all countries which can't afford a vaccine. They're still being charged for it. What queues? I have no idea, folks. But this is the reality, is what New York Times writes. A backlash abroad over China's vaccines. China's coronavirus vaccines were supposed to showcase country's scientific prowess and generosity. Instead, in some places, they have set off a backlash. Delays, inconsistent data, spotty disclosures, and the country's attack on Western rivals have marred an effort by Beijing to portray itself as a leader in global health. Recent studies showing that one of the vaccines has an efficacy rate of just over 50%, much lower than earlier claimed, have caused some concern. Governments in Malaysia and Singapore are now having to reassure their citizens the vaccines are safe, and Philippines lawmakers are criticizing the government's decision to purchase the vaccine by Sinovac, a Chinese company. Sinopharm, a state-owned vaccine maker, and Sinovac have said that they produce up to 2 billion doses this year. Oh, wow. Officials in Brazil and Turkey have complained that Chinese companies have been slow to ship the doses. At least 24 countries signed deals with Chinese vaccine companies after they were pushed out of the market for Moderna and Pfizer jabs by richer countries. So this is exactly what's happening, folks. This is the diplomacy India has landed as a golden opportunity that has landed in India's lap, along with the United States and the Western world and the rest of the world, which is going to find itself against the Chinese wall. But the other stuff that is really good that's happening is solar, like I said, right? So India, Uzbekistan solar MOU gets cabinet nod. Important, folks, to understand that the solar is the other item that is going to catch the fancy of Biden and Kerry. This is something that we're going to step up to the plate and use to the maximum. Huge amounts of funds are available globally, and more so are going to be available after this administration has come into place. No matter what the Chatham report says about how the UK should treat India, the fact is, without India, the United Kingdom really doesn't have a hope in hell, right? And look at what that, and especially in this, in the healthcare situation, like what in the vaccines, especially British PM's Republic Day message mentions vax cooperation. The UK and India are working side by side to free humanity from the coronavirus pandemic, British Boris Johnson said in a speech, special reference to the vaccine collaboration. Now, what's the other thing that while we shouldn't lose sight over this, especially now that our Dr. Harshvardhan is the presiding chair in WHO, COVID-19, hold China, WHO accountable. An independent panel reviewing the global handling of the pandemic has criticized the response of the China and WHO, blaming them for not doing enough and ignoring crucial signs in the early days of the coronavirus outbreak. Headed by New Zealand former Prime Minister Helen Clark and Liberia's former President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, the committee released an interim report on Monday detailing several points of failure. China did not make adequate efforts to contain the outbreak. WHO dragged its feet till the end of January and did not declare pandemic until March, and many countries ignored evidence that the virus spread between humans. So folks, we really need to nail China, and don't let them forget that this is where it all started. Jai Hind.